I'm calling David Seymour, 5 minutes.
Mr Speaker, aren't we a House of Representatives? Mr Speaker, I rise on behalf of the ACT Party in support of this bill. The ACT Party has a long and proud tradition of supporting free trade and free trade agreements. Why? Because free trade, voluntary transactions between countries are mutually beneficial. And didn't we hear today that the Green Party are still the party in this House who want to let you buy and sell marijuana, but they won't let you buy and sell anything else, especially if foreigners are involved. If you could imagine, Mr Speaker, that there was a policy that was capable of dragging hundreds of millions of people out of poverty around the world, and as those people got wealthier, they were motivated and able to clean up their environments, including the long detour we took to a tailings pond in Mongolia, then wouldn't you think that the Green Party would be in favour of that policy that reduces poverty, increases human welfare and gives people the means to be better environmental custodians? Wouldn't you think, Mr Speaker, that the Green Party would be in favour of that? But we see that the new, refreshed, business-friendly Green Party still has a very, very long way to go. Mr Speaker, I thought about rebutting some of the points that New Zealand First made, but unfortunately I don't think that their member actually made any, so I'll have to move along to my next point. Mr Speaker, this bill could be ratifying or at least approving an agreement that could go much, much further. We still have remaining tariffs, we still have safeguard measures, and if you truly believe in free trade, there is no justification for those. Unilateral free trade is what increases the welfare of New Zealanders, and for those of us who are still stuck in the 1800s mercantilism, I can tell you that being able to purchase 18th century, sorry, 17th century, the member is correct in reminding me, that I can tell you the welfare of New Zealanders is helped by being able to access goods at an affordable price. And that's one thing that has done an enormous amount for reducing poverty in New Zealand as well as overseas. Mr Speaker, there was some interesting asides from the otherwise excellent free trade members of the Labour Party suggesting that this bill should allow New Zealand the ability to block Koreans from buying property in Auckland. They said that Australia had this provision. And I believe we should make public policy based on the evidence and ask, how is that working for the Australians? The truth is, Mr Speaker, that despite the restrictions on buying existing dwellings in Sydney, the housing affordability in that city is still worse than it is in Auckland. The policy simply has not worked. And you just have to ask yourself why that might be. We don't see speculative bubbles from foreigners in any other area. All right, well, Mr Speaker, I'm addressing points raised earlier by members. If that's not going to be allowed in the debate, I'll have to move on to ISDS, which was part of this free trade agreement and addressed by earlier members. Will it be acceptable to address that, Mr Speaker? Thank you. Mr Speaker, we had a very wise contribution from David Shearer on the thresholds that need to be reached before ISDS are activated. It is true there has never been one brought against the New Zealand government. It's very unlikely that there ever will be, but if we expect people to invest in New Zealand from overseas, then they will expect to have a mechanism by which they can protect their property rights. Mr Speaker, I just wish that David Shearer could take those very wise and eloquent words and maybe impart them to the members who sit usually to his left, if only they could take their tinfoil hats off and hear what he had to say. Mr Speaker, in conclusion, free trade is a quintessentially New Zealand policy. No other jurisdiction of only 4 or 5 million people in the world isolates itself from being able to trade with much larger markets. And so it is, Mr Speaker, that I'm proud to support this debate or this bill supporting the Korean Free Trade Agreement, and I look forward to the great prosperity it will bring New Zealand as every other free trade agreement to date has. Thank you, Mr Speaker.